Alrighty. Hey, gang. Welcome back, you guys. Episode 131 of Zero Carb Journal. And I'm Matt. As always, good morning, you guys. How are ya? Hey, Robin. All right. Good morning, my friend. Hope you're having a great Sunday. Nice to see you here. Thanks for being here. So how is everybody? Hope you guys had a great week, a great couple weeks. It's been a few. I'm doing great. I have had a couple of really good weeks. I had a really fun time surfing this morning. Woke up kind of planning on actually resting today and lazing around because I've been getting after it pretty hard, and woke up and looked at the computer and was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of surf, which is rare. I think you guys probably know by now. It's pretty rare that it happens down the street from me, so woke up and first thing in the morning went down there and got in the water, and it was awesome. Hung out with saw a bunch of friends like I always do, kind of my one little social activity, and I got some great waves, and so I'm all charged up. So good morning. I had a great morning. My week's been good. I've been pushing hard on firewood, getting my woodshed topped off. It's just about done. I'm there for next year, but I'm gonna keep pushing, try and get a couple years up. Robin, you went kayaking Friday. Awesome. I'm envious of kayaking in Southern California. I know it's probably glorious down there right now. That does sound awesome. Have you done any more stand-up paddleboarding? I've been thinking about it ever since we talked about it that one time. I can't afford one, but I keep thinking I'd like to have one. So sometime in the future, I'm thinking I need to get one. I love my surfing, but I don't get to do it enough. And I feel like if I had a stand-up paddleboard, I might be in the water on a more regular basis, which is really good for me. Sounds like it's good for you too, Robin. Oh, you like kayaks better? Okay, cool. Yeah, I had a friend who had both, and she felt that way too. She really liked kayaks. Although she ended up with like a sit-on-top one. It was kind of like a hybrid. She could still stand up on it if she wanted to. But yeah, my sister and her fiance pretty recently, actually. That's kind of exciting. They are big kayakers. He's a big sea kayaker and has done a bunch of long trips, and since they've been together a few years now, they've done a lot of kayaking, and they're kind of giving me the kayak bug because my folks' place is on the water, and whenever we're down there, they're out there kayaking. Yeah, Robin, I'm coming around big time to kayaking these days, and I like those sit on top ones. You like that too? That's cool. I mean, I know they're not. If you're really specific with what your application is, those aren't the thing. But but they're just really nice general purpose ones, it seems like. And those new ones, right? They're just kind of plastic, and you can throw them around and put them on the car. It's so much they're so much more user friendly than the old fiberglass ones. So anyways, that sounds fun, Robin. I need to get out and do more of that. I'm kind of been still hunkered down, not quarantine really, just financially, trying to make sure I can make it through this downturn here. So I've been trying not to travel or spend any money, and and it's been great. I've been actually really stoked. So my week, I put my 2 cows. We slaughtered 2 cows on Monday. So I got 2 cows at the butcher now, and I should have them in the freezer in a week or two. And that feels awesome, you guys. So I got my food for probably not quite a year, but at least up through this year and out into next early spring probably. And I got my firewood, and so I'm feeling pretty good about the next few months, anyways, as long as I can keep some income going and pay the rent. But that hasn't ever been really too much of a challenge. I'm not really lamenting anything. I'm just unsure. Things are just unsure because I don't have any boat work coming, so I gotta make sure I don't overextend myself. But anyways, other than that, I've had a great couple weeks. I've been putting around at home, riding my dirt bike, putting food up, putting firewood up. Homegrown, fresh and local as it gets, says Robin. Yeah, totally. It feels awesome to have it up, and so that represents a big step for me in my personal progression, which is that I now have no livestock. Speaking of fresh and local, and it's interesting because if anything, this seems like it'd be a time to go more into livestock. And I'm feeling a little bit torn both ways, but I have been raising cows and sheep for I think about 15 years now without a break, and I've been doing it pretty, by myself for the most part here. And so I really, while I've taken some trips and stuff, it's just kept me really strapped close to home, which is fine. I've chosen that, but yeah, I'm trying to lighten that tether a little bit so I can maybe get out a little more and spend more time away. If I do get out, be able to spend, weeks away from home on some more extended trips. So it's been a long process for me to get to 0 animals, which as of this week I am. So I think I planned for it, I think like 4 or 5 years ago. And at that time I had 6 cows maybe, or 5 cows, and a bunch of sheep. And so every year I've been slaughtering more and trying not to get any more born or anything. And so it's been a long process. So that was my last 2 animals. And I'm torn. It feels great, and it feels weird. Every day I look out at my pasture, and it's my habit to be like, where are the animals? How's everything doing? How are the fences? And so that's been kind of weird, and it feels good. But it's definitely a change for me. But what's cool is it's a mark in progress. Yeah, no, Robin, yes, I still have. Waylon's almost not even an animal. He's just a little person almost. Yeah, no, me and Waylon are still hanging. And I am remiss in that I do still have animals, to be honest with you guys. I've been collecting, not collecting, but my interest, my I don't know how you say it, my passion, my hobby, whatever. I have a koi pond, and I've always had ponds here. And last year I built a little bit of nicer koi pond, and this year I've gotten it nicer and nicer. I finally got my water clear, and yeah, so I actually have a bunch of koi fish, and I'm hanging out next to I spend a lot of time reading next to my pond these days, watching my fish. I really enjoy them. And yeah, you're a little 4-footed human, Robin. I know that your dog is super important to you, just like mine is to me. Waylon has been I've had dogs my whole life. I was 20 when I got my first dog of my own, and I haven't been without my own dogs since then for the last 30 years. And I've had some great dogs. I mean, everyone who knows me will attest that I've had some heroes, that they all have been special. But Waylon is something else, man. Sometimes they just really get you, don't they, Robin? I know it sounds like you're super attached to yours too. He's just, I think all of the hard times I've been through these last few years, when I was really struggling, I felt like he was kind of the only one there for me. and he was so supportive. It's funny to talk about a dog that way. I never, it sounds ridiculous, but he really responded in a way that I've never had another dog do. And it just felt like he was really concerned about me. Anyways, love him. Only dog you've ever had. I know you told me he was old. You've had him for 15 years. You told me he was a stray. Maybe you picked him up in Mexico in my mind. I can't remember if that's the story. But you've had him for 15 years. You picked him up when he was really young. Wow. That's a long run, Robin. That's great. I've never had a dog for that long. That's amazing. So I still have my animal friends, my fish and my puppy Waylon, who I just love hanging out with. But I don't have livestock, so I don't really have chores or responsibilities. I mean, my fish and the fish are fine on their own. They're not really responsibility or chores. But Waylon certainly is neither chores, but he has responsibility. But you know what I mean. Livestock has been something that every day I wake up and there was on my mind, something to look at, something to do, something to take care of. Wow, that's an old little guy, Robin. That's cool. Little guy, little old man. What a cool. I hope Waylon makes it that long. I think he's 8 right now. I keep worrying about him, though. I mean, he looks fine, but my other dogs only made it to 12 or 14, so, oh well. So anyways, it feels great to have my cows in the freezer. It feels great, torn, like I said, but great to kind of have that to sort of have made this progression and be free of livestock management for at least a year, or at least the winter. And it's definitely a big step for me in terms of my personal progress and my goals. That's something that I set out to do, was to pare down my livestock operation, was to get myself a little bit less responsibility and a little less things, compulsories that I have to do, and start heading towards a little more leisure and vacation, travel and stuff like that. So part of that is that I have been pushing myself so hard ever since I sort of became aware how sick I was 5 years ago or whatever it was now. I just pushed so hard, and you guys have heard me talk about it in my workouts, and kind of this past year sort of taking a step back and letting myself be a little more rested. And so this is kind of part of that. I'm just going to slow down a little bit on my pressure on myself. I'm going to continue to progress, but I'm going to start to enjoy the fruits of it and smell the roses a little bit. So getting rid of the livestock, while my own personal livestock raising is something that's very valuable to me. It's a big part of who I am. I realized after now this 3.5 years of carnivory that I'm fine just buying bulk ground beef from Costco or whatever, and I can get by on that. And so while raising cows is important to me, it's not life or death. And so I'm going to take a break. So it feels really good because it feels like good progress. And yeah, Robin says there are probably some good farm to customer operations in your area that could replace growing your own. And Robin, that's actually when I made this decision to do this. It was when I first started carnivory, when I made this decision to reduce my livestock. It was when I had first started carnivory and I had eaten my way through all the animals I had in my freezer, and I didn't have any more to slaughter because it was like midwinter or something. I can't remember exactly the timeline. But I went to my local Craigslist and I bought a half a cow from a local farmer. And it wasn't expensive in the grand scheme of things. He charged me $3 a pound hanging weight. By the time I got that meat home and in the freezer, cut and wrapped with all the bones gone and just ground beef, it ended up being, I want to say, like about $6 a pound. So it wasn't terribly expensive to do that. It didn't actually represent even a huge expense over growing my own meat, because I think my own meat, the cheapest I can get it is about $3 a pound. If I buy a small steer, even if I raise them here myself, there's just enough costs incurred into them through the years of growing them out, that about $3 a pound is where I end up. So at any rate, buying from a local farmer does add a little more cost, but it reduced, a lot less labor, and convenience was awesome. So that was it. When I made this decision to kind of reduce my livestock, I was like, you're going to be fine, Matt. You can go buy half a cow. You can go buy a whole cow. You can go buy Costco ground beef if you need to. you can keep eating the same quality of homegrown food you're used to if you'd like to keep purchasing half cows. You don't need to raise them yourself. So when I figured that out, I was like, yeah, I'm going to take a break. So yeah, it's sort of it's only tough because it's kind of who I am, right? So that part's been a little kind of tearing at me just because I keep looking out there and going, "Where's my cows?" But it feels really good to be making some progress just in terms of paths I've chosen, and I'm moving down them. So, Robin says some good growing livestock is not who I am. City girl, yeah, I mean, that's just it. You got to know who you are. And like I said, that's a big part of not having livestock for me. Now that I've done it for so long, it just feels like part of me to be raising cattle, right? And so to not have them feels a little strange. And the value of my time. And that's a great point, Robin. And that's a big part of this. And so that kind of brings me full circle back to really one of the biggest blessings that zero carb and carnivory has brought to me. And it's one that I really want to make a whole video on, and I keep meaning to, but I just having a hard time kind of corralling all my thoughts. It's such a big topic. But it's going back to homesteading and me trying to provide for all my own food and sustenance and all that, and how that's always been a goal of mine. And when I switched to carnivory, I realized how much work and time I was putting into that project that really was unnecessary. And so this goes back to, Robin, your comment about value of time. It's one of the biggest blessings that zero carb or carnivory has brought to me is that I have so much, well, I'll say it the other way. I have so many less sort of compulsory chores that I have to do if I'm going to meet these goals of being self-sufficient. When I was trying to do that with plants, I worked my butt off in the garden, like an unbelievable amount of hours per year, let's say, not daily necessarily, but I put the time in, big time. And so when I started carnivory, I instantly freed up all of that time and that labor, not to mention cooking and preserving and all of that cooking hardware, and all of the time that goes into all that kitchen stuff, all those processes. So all of that, was incredible how much time I gained in my life. Productive time that I can use to further my other goals. And it has been such an incredible blessing. I think I've been more productive these last 3 years in other ways, in ways that are more externally visible, whether it's my physical health, whether it's my variety of small business attempts, whatever it might be. I'm able to give it so much more time these days because I'm not spending so much time trying to feed and provide for myself. And when it comes to carnivory, raising livestock, is wonderful because you can provide for yourself with a small amount of time input, but it is still a significant responsibility and chore load just throughout the year. So yeah, it feels awesome to have that time freed up to be looking out at my fences and going, let the snow take them down this year. Every year I would spend a few $1,000 probably on fences and a few 100 hours out there fixing them. And yeah, the value of my time really does play into my ability to spend a little more on some beef that I didn't put any time into. So yeah, it feels awesome. It feels really good. It does feel like progress, oddly enough, both putting the cows in the freezer and getting myself free of livestock. So now I'm looking out at my farm, and it is my dream, have this, working farm, be self-sustainable. But you know what? It's really cool. I've been here for 15 years. I've done it. I know how to do it. I'm confident that I can do it. And now I'm looking at it going, okay, can I just sort of hold on to this resource that I have here, this aspect of my life that I love, and just sort of set it aside for a minute? But will it, can I keep it here for me for another phase later on? And so far my plan's going pretty good. I got great renters in there right now. The house they're doing a great job taking care of it. The yard looks great. Everything's, I'm just kind of feeling, basically, I won't go too far into detail. I realize I'm getting off track. But what I'm trying to say is I'm finally getting to the point where I feel like I can sort of look towards some other things and not feel so tied to just kind of keeping this place running. So it's sore. I'm finally kind of getting it to where I'm going to be able to step away for a little while. I'd really like to take an extended trip this winter. I'm still thinking I'd like to go to like South America for a few months. I realize that's probably really unlikely. We can't even go to Europe. It doesn't sound like because we can't follow science or whatever. But anyways, it doesn't look like I'll be traveling far, but I'd still like to get out this winter and who knows, Robin, maybe I'll come to San Diego and spend a few months down there in my van and bother you, make you take me to all your favorite steak places. But yeah, I want to get out of here. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is my goals have been to sort of get this place settled down to where I can walk away for a little while, and it feels like I'm finally getting there. So yeah, I know. South America, Robin says South America got hit bad or hit last and they're still in bad shape. Yeah, no, I'm not I'm not buying any plane tickets right now. I know they're in terrible shape. I know Brazil is horrible, and I think most of it. So I think Robin, because I had airfare to Central America, to El Salvador. I was supposed to be there in May. And yeah, things are, I've talked to some of the guides, the surf guides I was going to use down there, and they said, man, things are not good down here right now. Partly because of the, they have some real strict controls on what's going on. So anyways, yeah, no, I'm not. Those were my hopes. But I realize they're not probably happening, and I'm not pushing any of this. I just talked to a friend, and he was all fired up about, I don't need to obey, I'm just going to do what I want. He just feels like he just wants to push and go do his thing, and I mean, whatever, I won't make any judgment. But I don't feel any urgency. I'm fine right here. I can wait. And like Robin says, don't really want to be on any planes, but a road trip sounds good. And that's exactly how I feel right now, Robin. And I keep thinking about being here at home too. And I'm like, oh, I would like to go get in my van and go to camping. And I'm like, you live in camping. Just hang out. I mean, it's all the same thing in different places, right? So I'm not too antsy at all. I'm just sort of thinking I'd like to travel. I can travel. So yeah, this winter we'll see what happens. But I definitely have got some travel plans in my soul. I don't know if I'll do them, but I'd like to. But I got my new van all built up. I got a really expensive plane ticket that I have a voucher for. So if they do open things up, and if I'm feeling sassy, who knows? It's kind of a mess, though. That plane ticket I bought, they wouldn't refund it, and I only have a year to purchase another one. I don't think I have to use it, but I have to buy another ticket before I think February. It's not that bad. So anyways, there's that stuff. How about food? How about zero carb food? How have you guys been doing? So I have been eating pretty much just my ground beef, and there's a reason for that, and it is because I had a sick day, and it was because of bacon. And I never learn, do I? I just never learn. So I've narrowed it down in terms of the brands of bacon at my store. There's one brand of bacon that is really bad for me. Oh, did they really? Robin says has the same hassle with United, but you squeak loudly enough and they did give you the money back, not just a voucher. That's interesting, Robin. I was tempted, but I did that cancellation right when things were the day that everything was blowing up, and I figured that they were just overwhelmed. At this point, I think I'm okay with it. At the time, I mean, it would have been a lot wiser to get the money back. I'm glad you did. I didn't realize. I just assumed it was a done deal, and I didn't want to mess with it that day when it was so hard to get a hold of anybody. But so at any rate, there's one brand of bacon at my store that I've now identified that is way worse for me than the other ones, and I ate it before I had verified that. I had thought that I was like, oh, last time I ate this one, I think it made me sick. And I ate it a couple weeks ago. I ate it one night, And yeah, I had a sick night. It wasn't terrible, but I knew that what it was that bacon not digesting and causing a bunch of bile. And so I woke up the next day and I threw the rest of it away. And I haven't eaten anything but ground beef. I know, Robin, I know. I know. It's funny because, of course, you're here today. I always think of you. I always think of you when I do this to myself because because I know what's coming, and you've told me that you know what's coming, and for you and I it's kind of the same. And no, I'll never learn. And I mean, I have to be fair to myself. There are some bacons that really it's no big deal to have them on occasion. Like actually, some bacon, nothing at all. But other ones definitely mess me up. And I've definitely verified this one, and it's happened every time I've eaten this one brand. So on the flip side of that, let me just explain maybe why I'm learning why the bacon has such a strong pull for me. And so now it's been probably 8 days since I've had anything but, I think I had a little smoked salmon, but for the most part, just my ground beef. And the ground beef I'm eating right now is Costco's organic ground beef, and the package says 85-15 fat, or protein to fat, so it's pretty lean. And I cook the crap out of it, as you guys know. I squish it flat like a piece of paper, and I fry it. There's not much fat in there, and so I'm eating exceptionally lean right now. I have been for about 8 days. Excuse me. And that's part of it. I get kind of like gassy a little bit. And I kind of have this hollow sort of hunger, not hunger. You guys know what I mean. I'm starting to figure it out. I definitely can't handle too much fat, but I need enough, right? And so just the burgers, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, no problem. Day after day after day, I start to recognize sort of this lapse of fat, and I start to crave bacon or something. It doesn't need to be bacon. A lot of times I'll do flank cut ribs or beef back ribs or anything like that to get some more fat. Even those fried ribeyes will give me the fat that gets me kind of back over that hump. So Robin says, is the fat the problem or the fact that it comes from a pig? Yeah, it's a great question, Robin, and here's what I think I have figured out for myself. This doesn't apply to anybody else, I don't think. So I have an issue with too much fat of any kind. And it's too much fat that is hard to digest. My sick nights have been very consistent in terms of how they feel, what brings them on, like how they look, kind of what I throw up. I'm sorry. It's always sort of hard. I'm using terms that aren't really correct. These are my perceptions from the outside. They're not really hard, but hard to digest. Stuff that stays in its basic form regardless of what my gut tries to do to it. And so I don't necessarily think that it's pig or cow, but I do think that some of the bacon processing, some of that curing, either makes some of that fat harder to digest, or I just like it so much I eat a lot of the bits that normally your teeth would kind of go, yeah, I can't chew that. It's like a stringy thing that isn't breaking down. Those are the things that I have a hard time with, whether it's beef or pork. So I don't really know for sure, Robin, but I suspect that it's mostly fat, mostly hard to digest fat, gristle, not beef or pork, but just kind of gristly, gelatinous things that my bile doesn't break down. I think those are the biggest factors. And then after that, I'd put processing. And then I'd probably go to beef and pork. I am certainly more like pork or beef fat certainly seems to be more palatable to me. It certainly seems to be more digestible to me overall. If I eat non-processed pork, like pork shoulder or pulled pork, I do not feel very well. So I think there's parts of both of that, and I think what you just typed there, Robin, is really the biggest factor. Is the combination of the curing and the yumminess makes it hard to stop eating, and my issue comes specifically from having more crap in my gut than I can digest. And so one little hard bit on a piece of bacon is not going to make me sick. It's just that they compound. And so, like even that crappy bacon, I ate 2 pieces with breakfast, it's fine. 4 pieces at dinner and then lying down at night, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night with that stuff not digested and end up burning a hole in my stomach. So, I can't really nail it down what it is. What the whole 30 folks call food with no breaks. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And at this point in my carnivory journey, I'm honestly not very susceptible to stuffing my face with something, kind of losing control, as it were, because I don't try and control myself. I think most of us feel that way these days on zero carbs. As a matter of fact, that's something I wanted to talk about, was how something I thought of this week, and maybe I'll get back into it, but just how strict I was on myself. I kind of touched on it earlier. How strict I was on myself for so long when I was trying to get myself to where I am now. And now with carnivory, I've realized that being strict on myself is really counterproductive, and I don't need to be. So it's really wonderful. So food with no breaks doesn't always really apply to me, but bacon, it's not like I just, eat the whole package and go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. It's just that I'm kind of learning where that line is. I have there's a limit to how much of that tough to digest stuff I can handle. And I actually think that it's something I had for a long time. Before I had identified what it was, I remember making myself sick in various ways with briskets and things, 10 years ago. And in my memory, it had a lot of the same hallmarks. So I think I've always had a hard time with fat at high levels, or difficult to digest fat. So Robin says the only thing that has had that kind of siren song control on me is dairy, and yeah, Robin, that's actually one. Bacon I don't really struggle with. Bacon it doesn't lure me in to buy it. It's just I like it, and it doesn't usually. I mean, I'm not being real. It has made me sick a lot, but I can eat it without getting sick. So I keep going back to it and going, well, I'm gonna try and temper how much I eat. Eat a couple slices with each meal just to get my fat up, but also try and buy the right one. But I don't know. I don't know if it's, maybe I'm just fooling myself. But yeah, dairy is one, actually, Robin. I feel the same way. Cheese specifically was a huge, huge part of my diet and life prior to carnivory. And this time it will be different. Oh, geez, Robin, you are wicked. That's exactly. Ouch. Yeah, this time it was going to be different. So cheese, I think you've heard me talk about it a few times. I've had that. This time it will be different a few times, where I've told myself that, and every time I go back to it, I regret it. And that's a much different deal than the bacon. The bacon, like I said, a little bit, no big deal. Too much, I make myself kind of sick in various ways. Cheese is like a little bit, I feel fine, and then the next day I'm like, what have you done to yourself? I hope I'm not. It says I'm losing my stream, so hopefully you guys can still see me. But at any rate, cheese for me, at least from what I can tell, I'm going to keep trying because I love cheese, and I do think it's actually got some good stuff for us. So I'm going to, every few months, I'll probably try a little more cheese. But for me, it leads to blockage and pain. And that one comes on really, really, really badly for me. So I've got to stay away from that. But if there was anything that I really wanted to get back to, it would be cheese. So, little Viking coach, nice to see ya. Eggs, great question. Oh, good. I'm glad it got better, Robin. Yeah, it says bad on my screen, but I'm just going to keep pushing through. Hopefully it'll pick back up. Oh, I got good now. Okay, good. So, Little Viking Coach, eggs are interesting for me. So when I started, eggs were a really important part of the whole diet for me. I felt like they were really crucial nutritionally, and I really made them an important part of my diet. Well, as time went on, I was continuing a few months into it to experiment with what was going to be the best for me, and I dropped eggs. At that time, I was actually raising chickens, so I was eating my own homegrown eggs. I'd always had chickens. And I dropped eggs, and I found out that eggs were causing me a bunch of gas. And that gas was leading to discomfort and sometimes some real bad pain. So I dropped eggs for, I want to say, pretty much most of the last 3 years. And in the last year, I'd say, I've been coming back and having eggs occasionally. So, for instance, if I go out for breakfast, I'm going to get 2 eggs, bacon, and a couple burger patties. Those are the times when I'll eat the eggs and the bacon, and I'll just have them that time. And then if I don't have them again for a week, no problem. So eggs for me, kind of the same as bacon. Bacon can have more dramatic effects. Eggs, I almost never notice any downsides from a single serving. But if I make eggs a part of my regular diet, I end up with gas. And that gas for me leads to gas cramps, as an older fella used to call them when I was a young kid, but basically gas pains. Really bad pain, like the kind of pain that used to make me lose consciousness. It sounds weird, but I think that's part of my whatever condition, I guess. I don't know. But I would get little bits of gas, bring on major issues for me. So for me, eggs are a non-regular food item. I have been including them more and more and more as time goes on. I've been buying eggs almost every trip to the store, which is like every 2 weeks. And so I've been eating eggs probably, 1 carton of eggs is for me, I eat 2 usually at a time with my ground beef. So it's like 6 servings. So I've been eating them like every, 3 days or 4 days for these last few weeks, and I've been feeling fine. So Robin says I go through phases with eggs, bunches of them for a few weeks, and then you just don't feel like them for a while. And I think that might be part of what I'm going through too. Like I said, I eat them. If I start to eat them regularly, I start to get gas, and I kind of just start to be like, I don't really want to go down this road. So that's eggs for me. I feel like they're a really important part of this diet. You can do without them for sure, so I don't mean to scare you into saying that, but they do definitely seem to bring something. They definitely make my plate, my food taste a lot brighter. I'm just like much more interested when there's an egg, especially like a wet yolk involved. But I will say that I think it's very much worthwhile for all carnivore, zero carb folks to at least try a period without them, because I do think they bring some different stuff to the table in terms of effects they can have on you. It's different than just eating beef, I think, for everybody. I think they're always going to change things a little bit. So definitely worth playing with. Hey, Linda. Hi. Welcome. So that, I want to go back a little bit and touch on zero carb, and steak tartare needs an egg yolk on top. I mean, right? It's just without the egg yolk, it's not even, it just doesn't work. So like I said, there's something about it. I can eat my plain burger patties and I like them, but man, I put 2 like over easy eggs in there and let the yolk run all over them, and all of a sudden I'm like really excited about it. So it's I read that as that food having something in there that I really, that my body craves. So let's go on that note. Let's go back to being hard on yourselves and pushing yourself and the need for real rigid discipline and all that, and how that changes on carnivore. I just wanted to touch on it real quick because it's been pretty profound in my life, especially as I'm, in this kind of slow time after pushing so hard for so many years, waking up early, working out, going to the boats, working my butt off, coming home, doing my chores. I'm in a much slower cycle right now. And I've really been aware lately of how hard I had to drive myself when I was a carb eater to get over all of the downsides that eating those carbs had brought me. My sort of soft, out of shape body and aches and pains and sort of slow moving and mental, just not being positive, having a hard time staying positive, being mentally challenged to stay positive, being depressed, basically. All of those things as a carb eater that made me need to really tighten the thumb screws, really crack the whip on myself in order to reach, what now I know are not really very difficult goals. At the time, they seemed almost impossible. Goals of losing my belly, getting fit, having a physique that I liking myself, basically. Being in shape enough to go surfing this morning and go ride my bike, being well enough to work all day and not have my joints sore and all those things. So, in order to get over those humps in the old days, I had to discipline myself. I had to wake up at a crazy time with a strict regimen of workout and food and measured calories and measured energy expenditure, and work all day, and my checklist of all my compulsory things I had to do in order to be who I felt like I wanted to be. And it's just such a contrast now that on zero carb, my workout schedule has become much less intense. I don't push myself so hard. I realize I like the way I look. I'm not going to get fat. I'm not going to, I don't need to keep the hammer down. I'm not sloughing off. I continue to maintain my ability to surf. My cardio is a little poor right now, but I can jump on my bike and start building it right back up again. And I have been. And I don't really know how to say it, you guys, but just the mental place where I was 4 years ago when I was I just had to micromanage every aspect of my life. I felt like I was never going to reach these goals. And now I realize that as a carnivore, I'm going to naturally end up with a physique that I like, with energy, with health, with the ability to go do the things I love without soreness. So, I don't know. It's just something I was thinking about a lot this week as I've gone back through my goals and gone back through my past few years and where I am and where I was. And honestly, a big part of it has come from me going, do I need to work out today? Should I push myself this hard? And kind of going, I don't know, man. Maybe find a happy middle ground. Save some energy for, progress in other areas. So it's been feeling really good. And it's one of the things that really, really, really stood out to me about carnivory recently. So Robin says, I've given up butter lately. Found myself eating butter lollipops when I wasn't even hungry. Not good. Anything that gives that OCD response is problematic. I agree, Robin. And yeah, that's interesting about the butter lollipops. I have never been one who's been able to just, take that fat in and feel good doing it. But I kind of wonder, actually, after that thing I was just talking about with the bacon, I almost wonder if maybe a few butter patties around wouldn't be something that might be good for me. It'd probably be better for me than the bacon. Something interesting to think about. But Robin says it's ridiculously easy to stay in shape on carnivore. Thought I was going to be sore from kayaking, but I wasn't. I know. That's really what I'm trying to say, is that, I'm not like Dr. Baker or anything. I'm not super buff. I'm not a big, giant, strong man with giant muscles. But I'm not the way I was, which was like shaped like this. I mean, even mildly, I've always been kind of in shape and I've always felt like I was an athlete, but I was shaped, wider in the middle than I was on my shoulders, um, and my clothes fit funny, and I just didn't like the way I looked. It's as simple as that. And I think as much as we want to pick on vanity, or how little fitness matters or matters a lot, or whatever your points of view are, what matters is that you like yourself. And for me, liking myself was tied to how I looked, and then there's, like Robin says, how you feel too. Like, can you go kayak? Are you fit enough to go do the things you enjoy without being uncomfortable? And so it's just been so wonderful to realize that I'm going to have this physique. I'm going to be able to stay fit without taking myself backwards in other, I had to basically give up a lot of other things to get here. I thought, when I was eating a carb diet, I had to just sacrifice and work out and not eat this, and you know what I'm saying. It's just, it's so amazing to be here and recognize that I can keep here, stay here, keep what I've earned, without that super strict regimen. It's one of the best things about zero carb, one of the biggest blessings, and I'm only just starting to really understand it and really appreciate it. I think that's what I'm trying to say, is that this week I was like taking it kind of slow, getting things done, but not pushing myself, and going, man, this is amazing. This seems like how it's supposed to be. I mean, that thing I was doing before wasn't sustainable. I was going to burn myself out, just like you see those real hardcore long distance runners and other people, doing things like that, and thinking that I get it. I think some of those things are just, it's a human endeavor. You push yourself. I love that. But there's other people who think that doing that every day is the only way to health. And I think you're burning yourself out. It's okay to not push, says Robin. So I love that. Yeah, that's what it is, Robin. And that's, I think it's not really so surprising that is, that's true. What was difficult was, for me to accept that. And that's what zero carb or carnivore brought me, was that I could accept that it's okay to not push. I've always just had to push so hard. And for me to finally go, oh, it's okay to not push. You aren't going to become lesser, I'm still going to be these things that I want to be. So really, 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 really important observation in my mind, and just brought me great joy, to be honest with you. When I look back at how hard I push myself, and I look at where I am now, and I actually kind of like this dude better who's not pushing so hard. I think I look better. I think I feel better. I think I'm healthier. I did need to do that stuff to get started, but excuse me, I got something in my teeth there, but I did learn that I don't need to. So Little Viking Coach says Mark Sisson said he almost died from his distance running. Exactly. Man, he's an inspiration, and I haven't kept up with him. I actually need to see what he's doing now. 3 years ago is probably the last I followed what he was up to, and he was pretty dang inspiring at that time. And chronic cardio. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how you sort of have to go down that path. I mean, I don't know that you could get here without, I didn't go through like a real terrible chronic cardio phase, but I certainly believed it. I pushed myself to some level, and I certainly believed it. And now, as a matter of fact, I was just driving up from surfing, and I passed someone who was probably roughly my age, running down the hill, and I could tell, you know those people, you can see them, those super endurance, just hammer down all the time, kind of usually 50s, something. Seems like a lot of people get that drive in their 40s and 50s. And a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them drive themselves to where they just look awful. I mean, they just look like, they look like they've been in prison. I mean, I don't even know. They look awful, to be honest. It just doesn't look like a healthy body to me. And I just was driving up from surfing and it's kind of where this thought came from, as I'm passing this person running on down the hill, and they just looked, I mean, they were just emaciated. So, and I know that for some people it is the key to their health, and I'm not saying absolutely it's the worst thing, but I'm just glad to have sort of come out the other side and been like, okay, I found what works for me. Sarah, hello, welcome. I'm so glad to see you. Chronic cardio. I didn't know that Mark Sisson wrote the foreword for Dr. Saladino's book. Interesting. Robin, I'd love to hear your take on Dr. Saladino's book at some point. I probably should just read it myself. I haven't read any carnivory books. I'm not really boycotting. I just, I'm past that point, right? I started a little too early for the book craze. But Sarah says, I used to teach 27 aerobics classes a week. Geez, Sarah, you have always struck me as someone with tons and tons of energy, but that's a lot. Wrecked your body, your face age, and your hair grade, no bueno. Dr. Saladino has Mark almost talked into carnivore. Interesting. So I was wondering, like I said I hadn't kept up with Mark Sisson for the last 3 years. He was sort of someone I really looked up to when I first was before I found carnivory, but I was sort of like trying to find, what was wrong with me, and I was heading down this path. He was an inspiration for sure. It's easy now in hindsight when we become carnivores. It's easy to look back on some of those people like Mark and say, they're definitely making things way too complicated. In hindsight, we can sort of pick on some of their message and go, yeah, they're close, but no cigar. But that's not fair, because we're just in such a different place. It's not really fair to judge them from here. I think he's one of the best figures in the nutrition space. I think most of his messages is great. I'd love for him to try carnivore, because I think that, well, as you guys know, probably would have profound effects. I don't really know what he eats. I remember that he was a kind of a big leafy green and kale and that kind of stuff guy, and we all know how hard that is on most of us anyways. So I know that when you remove that stuff, you typically tend to feel a lot better. But it is what it is. Anyways, I love those guys. I'd love to see them continue to progress. I'm happy to hear Paul progressing as well. I know he's a new carnivore with a deep doctor background, and sometimes those things sort of bother me when they come together. But I'm glad. I know that what I've seen of Paul Saladino as well is that he's progressing as well and starting to become a little bit more comfortable in his skin as a carnivore, and maybe starting to see a little more clearly some of his old biases and whatnot. But at any rate, love those guys, love that stuff. I should pay more attention. Little Viking Coach says some of the HIT training research shows those 20-second all-out effort bursts are very effective. Yeah, Little Viking Coach. Actually, when I was pushing myself really hard, those in the beginning of carnivory, HIIT was really an important part of my deal. I've never been very good at long distance running, but I was really into the 30-second sprint, sets of 3. I would ride my bike kind of at a cruising pace, ride my exercise bike, and then I would just go all out sprint for 30 minutes or 30 seconds, 45 seconds, try and do more each time. That burns you up like nothing else. I've never experienced such an increased cardio capacity. I did that for a few months, and my resting heart rate, I got down to like 43 resting heart rate. So I've dropped it. I need to go back into it, but I'm really into HIIT. When I do cardio, when I want to build up my cardio, that's kind of my chosen method. I'm not real good on the long endurance stuff. Bike riding, I can do okay. Running, I'm no good. My legs are too short. Hurts my knees. So Sarah says, I came to carnivore from Weston Price, then Marxist and Primal Eating. Interesting. Oh, and Little Viking Coach says he gave up his big salads. That's what I was wondering. He was big on those big salads 3 years ago when I was paying attention. And Robin says, I think Paul is a natural-born nerd who really likes the complications of research science. I don't think he's trying to make it complicated. Yeah, I agree with you, Robin. I mean, he definitely, don't get me wrong, when I pick on him, which I tend to do, it seems like, and I apologize for that, but please don't take it as I really like his whole deal. He seems like a great guy. Not that I met him, but he seems like he's coming at it from the right perspective. I've told you my issues before, just that he's new, and of course he's going to frame it as a doctor because that's who he is. Like you said, it's just who he is. Natural born nerd who really likes the complications of research science. So of course he's going to dovetail his interest in carnivory and his paradigm of medical science, and he's going to, as Sarah says, put too many rules into it. And that's just that's what I keep talking about. Happy to see him progress, because I think that's just a pitfall of being new to the scene with the biases that he has. And I don't mean bias in a negative way. I mean just what you said, Robin, that he likes complicated medical research science. That's who he is. Totally get it. Of course he's going to dovetail that with carnivory. Of course he's going to make, I found this correlation. I'm going to make a rule about vitamin K or whatever it might be. As time goes on, I think he's going to, because he's a real one. I think he's a real one. I do. I think he's really following his heart and his mind, and he's looking and he's observing, and he wants to see what's true. His assumptions and things, I don't fault him for any of those. I recognize that he's new, that this is it's a path that, it's going to take some time. What I like about him is that he is, as he goes down this path, rather than like some others who just sort of double down and say, no, you got to eat liver. Paul seems to be doing a really good job of being like, okay, new information. No, I think I'm going to change. I don't feel like it's mandatory anymore. So I'm a big fan. I mean, I'm not a big fan because I don't really watch, but he's definitely got my support in our movement. And, I actually have high hopes that he's probably going to become, a really significant voice for us. I just feel like he just needs a little more water under the bridge and a little more experience with all of the other carnivores out there. Carnivores like me who don't eat much fat, who don't eat any liver. Carnivores like, the Andersons, 20 years of ribeye only. I mean, just basically just a while. He's going to take a while to sort of gather up all of the data and form, a bigger picture of it. But I like it. So, yeah, and Robin says it. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Dr. Paul, we are seeing as a work in progress, taking us all along in his personal quest to figure it all out. And that, I 100% agree, Robin, and I hope I haven't been too hard on his messages in these past year, because I have always felt that way, and I feel like we're all on that path, and I absolutely encourage him. And like I said, I think a while ago when we talked about it, my only issue was that he was coming as a doctor with all of this. He's got that. He's got the clout of a doctor, so people are going to listen. And then he's also got all of his associated baggage from his medical training that he's going to try and hang on carnivory in the beginning. And as he goes down that learning process, he's going to be like, oh, I hung that one there, but we don't really need vitamin C or whatever it is. And so, he's going to figure those things out. And I totally 100% agree. It's a path. It's a journey. He's been great about saying things like, I don't feel that way. I felt that way when I started. I don't feel that way anymore. Like I said, I think he's a real one. I think he's like one of us for sure. And I'm excited to see what happens down the road. So he experimented with raw carnivore and decided it was not for him. See, that's awesome. And that's why I say he's a real one. Because I think he does have an open mind, for sure. So Little Viking Coach says Food Lies channel has a panel with Mark Sisson, Saladino, and Baker. Really? Huh. I need to check that out. Food Lies? I haven't even seen that. Was that fella who made that film that Dr. Baker was all excited about? Man, I haven't kept up. I've been off of carnivore Twitter. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about not pushing myself so hard in terms of my physical program, and it translates over to the mental and educational aspect of this, I've just really checked out, to be honest with you guys. It's a testament to how comfortable I am with this way of eating, with my life as a carnivore, with my health, with how I'm finally feeling like I've kind of arrived. I haven't paid as much attention to that movement and where people are, but I definitely want to get back in and start paying attention, because I am really interested actually in this Mark Sisson progression, because I know that on the periphery of our low carb movement, we've been seeing a lot of major players start to kind of gradually drift their low carb keto into carnivore, whether it's intentional or not. And so I think we're starting to have a big impact, and I'm going to be really curious to see, which of the major players end up all in or still kind of straddling the line. I'm not sure how things are going to go. So Sarah says, I don't follow so much anymore, all this newfangled stuff, but you do love Kelly Hogan. She is hilarious. Is she still, so a few years ago, she was really sort of below the radar. Does she have some active social media presence somewhere that I'm not seeing? Because I haven't seen her for a few years, but maybe she's got an Instagram or a Twitter or something that I'm not following. I'd love to keep up with her. I actually kind of wondered about our long-termers, when most of us, Sarah and Robin and when we all started talking 3 years ago or so. Oh, she's hot and heavy on Instagram and YouTube. Oh, really? I'll have to go look up some of her YouTube stuff. I'll have to check it out. So yeah, when we first started 3 years ago, it was really only those like 10-year veterans that had, Kelly and the Andersons and Charles Washington and that crowd and Amber, and we really only had those, kind of a smaller group of long-term people. We didn't have a lot of sort of in our 2-3 year world. And so I was really paying attention to those people back then, but I haven't kept up, and I've been kind of wanting to see if they've progressed, if they've stayed, if their message is the same. I'll have to check out Kelly. I'll actually go check some out right after this. So, and Robin says Dr. Barry and Dr. Eid have both gone from keto carnivores to full carnivore. That is amazing. So, Dr. Eid is one of my favorite. My crush. Sarah. I said that once. She's not my crush. I just thought she's cute. My crush. I mean, I guess I did say I had a little crush on her. I mean, she's so smart. Yeah. Anyways, My Zero Carb Life. That's Kelly's channel. I'll have to check that out. So, Dr. Eid was one of my favorites back when I first joined Twitter. Do you guys remember she would always ask, has anyone noticed a difference in their depression with carnivore? Maybe she asked it with low carb, and I gushed for 30 minutes once. Well, I was particularly smitten that day, apparently. Oh, that's funny. I forget. Dr. Eid. Yeah, I always loved her recognizing how strong the impacts of, diet on our mental state and things like clinical depression or, OCD or whatever it might be, how, diet manifested in those symptoms. She was always super tuned into that stuff. And I remember early dialogue with her, she was the instigator. She was really good about that, but we'd have lots of conversations about that stuff. And I just kept seeing, hoping that she would drift that way. And I blushed. Oh, gosh. You guys are picking on me now. So, yeah, I love her. She's great. And she really was one of the first people on Twitter to make me feel like I wasn't crazy, to be honest. And she's one who she's like to me, she's a huge person in this movement, and a big part of it is actually because she's not so huge, is because she's just seems so approachable and so real and such a really truly kind, caring person. She doesn't seem to hold herself above in any sense. Her social media presence just seems to be like one more person, but one who demands an enormous amount of respect. I really, really, really have always dug her style and what she puts out there. So I'm so glad to hear she's carnivore. I got to follow up and see how it's doing to her. See how it's treating her. It must be treating her well. And Dr. Barry, yeah, I've definitely followed him. He's so much fun, isn't he? He's such a kind, honest seeming gentleman. And I watched him years ago when he wasn't quite carnivore and he was just coming there, and then just to have him come to carnivore and sort of like his childish enthusiasm for it makes me really, really happy to see those people out there in the world giving me hope, right? That there's other smart people out there waking up. So yeah, Amber's awesome, and I am a fanboy, and Robin, I'm glad to hear you're a fangirl, and I think she's attractive, yes, but I also am more just attracted to her lovely mind and her wonderful way of framing stuff. It isn't even it's not the research, or it's just she just has a really great perspective, and I really appreciate it. And Robin, yeah, Amber and Georgia are great together. You met both of them at LC Denver. Yeah, I figured, and that was one of the big reasons why I was starting to think I wanted to go this year, was because I was like, yeah, there's some people I'd really like to meet, and Amber's one of them, but actually Georgia is more. Well, I feel like I would. Georgia's a psychologist, right? Psychologist. I'm not sure. But at any rate, you guys know I struggled with my depression forever. And now it's just like, it's not even in my life. It's not even a factor. And so I've always wanted to sit down with Dr. Eden and have a long conversation about that. Am I just an outlier? Am I crazy? Can we help a lot of people? I mean, so many people struggle with depression, whether it's clinical or whether it's just, sort of a minor day in or day out. And to have mood stability like we do on Zero Carb, psychiatrist. It's just unreal, and boy, I'm happy to see her pushing forward into that space as a psychiatrist. And her articles are amazing in Psychiatry Today and whatnot. I mean, we are so lucky to have advocates like that out there. So guys, we've been going for a little over an hour. I don't need to jump off right now, but I'm babbling. What else should we talk about? You guys got any stuff? I feel like I have a goggles. Oh, I think it's a shadow from my light. That's what it is. Yeah, so schedule-wise, this is 2 weeks from my last one. I kind of like the schedule. I'm sort of reluctant to make a schedule, so I'm not going to make a schedule because, like I told you, I'm sort of liking my lack of chores and lack of compulsory things to do right now. So I think I'm probably going to try to stick to like an every other week. So I don't like it. Don't like what, Sarah? Sarah, what don't you like? You don't like my schedule? I don't know what we're talking about. So as far as my schedule goes, yeah, I think I'll probably come back every 2 weeks or so and do my journal. I definitely was feeling a little, by doing it weekly, I definitely was feeling like I was just sort of going through the motions, and so this time I was ready to come back. So I think that feels better for me. I hope it feels better for you guys. Every other week. Don't like it every other week. You don't like it every other week. You want it every week, Sarah? Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure what you're saying. Little Viking Coach says, have you ever had a cheat day and paid for it? Okay, Sarah. Well, that's cool. That's good to know. And, I'm not against doing it every week either. I just, we'll see as time progresses here. I at the moment, I'm feeling like weekly was a little much. Okay, I got it. That's nice, Sarah. I appreciate that. Thank you. So, Little Viking Coach, regarding a cheat day, I haven't, not in the traditional sense of the word, and the reason for that is because I've had minor cheats like Robin and I were talking about earlier, and they aren't even cheats, just experimenting within carnivory, and finding out that I can still have horribly bad experiences even just with cheese or bacon. And so as much as I've been like, I'm just going to go eat a piece of pizza, and then I'll be like, yeah, no, that's a really bad idea. Like, you could spend tomorrow in the hospital. I mean, it was that bad when it was bad for me. I lose consciousness. The pain is so bad. Like I said, that I'll lose consciousness multiple times during the day. I'll be bleeding. I don't know because I haven't done it. I haven't had a cheat day, as it were. But that's what I fear. I fear that it's going to be a lot worse than just like bloating or diarrhea or whatever, but that I'm going to be like in the hospital, or screaming for my mom, alone up here, passing out, going unconscious. So I've looked at ice cream in the store aisle, and I've been like, I'm gonna maybe have a cheat. I'm gonna get some ice cream, and then I'll be like, yeah, no, not worth the risk. What happens if it's that bad? What happens if you can't wake up? What happens if you fall on the floor and can't get to the hospital? And I don't know what the heck is wrong with me, but I can tell you that whatever it is, when it happens the way it used to happen, it was so bad that I was literally fearing for my life for like every second that it was going. I mean, I was just bathed in sweat, on the verge of passing out, bleeding, sweating, naked, just throwing up, dying. I mean, literally feeling like I'm probably not going to be alive in a few more minutes. So, yeah, no cheat days. It's a good motivator. And it's funny to talk about because I don't feel sick. I don't feel scared. I don't feel restricted. I don't feel anything until I start thinking about eating some other stuff. And then all of a sudden I go, ooh, you're not okay, Matt. You better check yourself. So, no cheat days for me, or if I've had them, they fall under such a narrow, umbrella that no one else would consider them cheat days. Like for me, bacon is a cheat day. So it is what it is. It's as much, I keep saying it, but as strange as it sounds, I know you guys know this. Once you learn what you can have and what you can't have, it doesn't really even feel restrictive anymore, because as you guys know, just beef is kind of what you want every time anyways. I mean, sure, it'd be nice to have an egg with it or whatever, but it's I'm fine without it, and it's way better than all that pain I went through. So Sarah says, I tried reintroducing macadamia nuts and the pain in my guts made me stop. And yeah, that's, I mean, I would hope that I would just get kind of a little hint like, hey, don't do that again. But my fear is that it's going to come back and just clobber me. I mean, it was so bad, you guys. I really have a hard time conveying how terrifying it was. So, and actually, let's talk about cheats real quick, because I did do something this week that I told you guys I was going to do. I had a strawberry come ripe on one of my plants, and I ate it. I didn't really eat it, but I kind of chewed the seeds off around the outside and sort of sucked the strawberry juice, and I spit out all of the stuff, and then I took kind of the heart of it and I just kind of sucked on it, and I didn't really chew any and didn't get any fiber, but I definitely swallowed a whole lot of the strawberry like pulp and kind of juice just to see. I didn't like eat the berry and chew it, but I definitely there wasn't much left of it when I fed it to my koi fish. But I probably swallowed like a couple grams of strawberry pulp, let's say, juice and pulp. And for one thing, it wasn't very good. I mean, it's funny how when you've been eating meat for so long, you eat those sweet fruits, and you're kind of like, I kind of get the attraction, but mostly it's sort of just my teeth are all kind of sticky, and I don't know. It wasn't very good. First of all, and second of all, it made me feel crazy. Like that one didn't make me like pain or anything like that, but I've definitely felt the sugar rush, and I got like lightheaded, like high blood sugar kind of feeling. And then I kind of like got a little sweat going, and I sort of like went up and down, and I kind of crashed, all in the matter of like 45 minutes. And I went, that wasn't very fun. Like, why would I do that? So, and I'll probably do it a little bit more this summer. I've got some favorite plum trees and some favorite pear trees that I planted 10 years ago, and I've coddled, and I love the trees, so I'll probably like sample the pear and go, it's mealy and it doesn't taste very good, but that's as far as I come with cheating. Yeah, so Robin says I'm fine with eggs and seafood and all kinds of meat, so I don't feel confined or constrained at all. It's so interesting, zero carb, isn't it? I mean, it's so restrictive. I mean, it really is. But boy, it doesn't feel that way at all. When I go to the store, I'm not looking at things and going, nope, you can't have that. I'm looking at all the stuff I can have and trying to decide. It's such a different mental state. So, I'm so glad to be here. So, yeah. So, Sarah, that's nice to know that you'd like me to come and do a show every week. And I won't say that I won't. I'm going to just not put a schedule on. I'm going to come do one every time I feel like it. How about that? So I think it's probably going to be every 2 weeks. But if I have something to say, I'll come back every week. And I'll try not to make it any much longer than that. And I still am hoping to start to find some time to generate some more stuff, so there'll be more content. But I keep saying that, and I keep not doing it because I'm really enjoying not having a bunch of stuff to do. To be honest, I hope you guys don't mind. And I do. I have just enough to do between this channel and my other channel, and I've kind of got some stuff that I'm juggling, but I'm enjoying a little bit of a slower pace. I apologize. I'm enjoying it. So Sarah says I'm craving seafood like crazy right now. Need to get to the sea. Yeah, seafood. Something about it fills a hole that nothing else really does. And Robin says my best friend forever has berry bushes in her yard, and I've had a few now and then with no problem, but don't crave them. And yeah, Sarah, you don't want to go to Florida right now to get your seafood. You just wait. You just wait. But there will be some seafood for us in the near future. And yeah, Robin says she gets seafood cravings too, and I do too. I think seafood, it's kind of like how I said eggs brighten my dish, and I feel like that means there's something in there that my body wants. Seafood feels the same way. There's a time when my body just starts saying, time to get some fish, man. You need some seafood. And, my folks live on an oyster farm, so I'm fortunate that way. I haven't been to visit them, but I can go down anytime and get as many oysters as I want. And of course I work, building commercial fishing boats, so typically able to fill my freezer if I want to. I feel really fortunate, but there's something about it. There's something about seafood that really hits a spot that nothing else does. And that's interesting, Robin, about your berries, and your friends' berries. You can have a few now and then. No problem. That's interesting. I didn't really have a problem with the strawberries. Like I said, I just noticed the sugar. Yeah, the Red Lobster in Gatlinburg probably isn't going to do it, Sarah. It's so funny because I grew up here in Seattle. I'm not in Seattle now, but I'm close. But I grew up in Seattle, and we were always blessed with seafood. And so when I was 19, I moved to Colorado, and I spent most of my 20s in Colorado and in Utah snowboarding in the Rockies. And man, I was working in an industry, I was a sales rep in the snowboard industry, so I would wine and dine and did a lot of dinners out and stuff like that. And one of the most popular things for people to do was go do like oyster shooters or seafood, and I just couldn't do it. It's not like it was bad there because they fly it in the day and everything, but it was just so hard coming from Seattle and then being in the middle of the country and eating seafood. So I get it, Sarah. Red Lobster in Gatlinburg doesn't really fill the bill. So Robin's is a restaurant near me that's special on oysters every Wednesday. Just started up again after virus hiatus. That's awesome, Robin. I love oysters in small amounts. They taste so good, and they make my body feel so good, but only a very little bit for me. I think I've always had a little bit of a shellfish sensitivity. I kind of get the tingles in the back of my head, and I kind of start to close up in my throat a little bit. So I try not to eat too much, but there's something about the oysters that really, really, really fit. They hit a certain spot for me. I don't know if it's the zinc or the magnesium or what else they got going there, but they really are great. They do have an enormous amount of carbs for an animal, and you probably know that, Robin, that if you eat them by the dozen, that you're getting a huge carb whack right then. And for most of us, that's not a big deal. I definitely can't eat too many of them, and I don't know, like I said, if it's the carbs or if it's a sensitivity. But they are so good. I got to come to San Diego, Robin. I definitely got to come to San Diego. I'm going to wait. I'm definitely going to wait. I'm not going to do any traveling right now. But that sounds really good. It sounds really good. You know what sounds good right now? I got to say, just going out and sitting in a restaurant and eating sounds really good. We haven't gotten to do that here, and I probably won't do it for a while just because there's no need for me to do that. But I'm ready. Tons of carbs, Robin. You didn't know that? Yeah, you should look it up. It's crazy. They're like 40% carbs, or I'm making that up. I don't remember exactly, but like an enormous amount for you'll be surprised. Like a dozen oysters is maybe like 100 grams of carbs or something like that. Like a couple pieces of bread. It's crazy how many carbs they have in there. Animal carbs, so they're probably okay, but they definitely can get your head spinning a little bit. It's kind of probably part of the rush that you get when eating them is that carbohydrate rush. So carnivore meetup at Robin's. That sounds awesome. Yeah, Sarah, you agree. I need to go to San Diego. I will promise I will film videos of me at the beach and surfing, can't really film myself surfing, but I'm so excited, you guys. I got my road trip van. I've just been down there looking at it. I can't use it, but it's like I'm so excited to actually. I think it'll be this fall probably, but I'm gonna get that thing and hit the road for hopefully some extended time and do some of these live journals from the road, like sitting by the river or in the mountains or whatever, or at Robin's house in San Diego. Robin is in San Diego. I think so. Yeah. Did I say something else? I meant San Diego. If I didn't say it. Anyways, I'm so excited to go do all that stuff and to bring you guys with me, because I'm now, last year when I went on my trips, I wasn't live streaming, and now I've got this set up where I'm pretty sure I can bring my cell phone modem, and I should be able to do this from the road. So it's a ways off. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm excited for that. So, and yeah, Robin, you are in San Diego, which is my favorite place. I think I told you I was a little kid in Southern California up until I was 6. And, man, I've always wanted to get back there. I mean, still, actually, when I took my trip there, whenever that was, 1.5 years ago, I was looking at real estate, dreaming. I mean, it's not very possible, but I would move there. I'd probably move a little north of you, Robin, just because San Diego, although San Diego's my favorite place, it's a little crowded these days. I liked Ventura a lot. Everywhere's crowded, but at least it was a little more reasonable. At least I could see that I could maybe slide in there. So, but man, I love it down there. So Sarah's rooting for you. And I'd love to come to Tennessee too, Sarah, one of these days if I ever get my vehicle on the road and get to go across the country. I still need to go to the South. I told Sarah that Tennessee was one of my favorite states I've ever visited. I've only been there once. Absolutely a place that I felt like I could live there again. Yeah, sidewalk cafes are safe enough for my tastes too, Robin. That sounds really nice. That's perfect. Sidewalk cafes sound great. God, I'd love to be down there in the sun eating on a sidewalk cafe or a rooftop. You guys have some nice rooftop cafes as well. So, yeah. Well, it's not time yet. And that really has nothing to do with traveling. It just has to do with me not having a job for the most part. They're starting to come back. I did a little bit of marine design work this last week. I mean, only about $200 worth, but it was a start. So hopefully I will have some work in the coming months and my situation will change. Yeah, but being outside is the way to not go crazy right now. Absolutely. I mean, there's no way. That's just it about quarantine and what people do and whatever is, I mean, how am I, with my 15 acres, going to judge somebody who lives in a condo, Those people have to go outside, right? Go do your thing. But yeah, I have no problem getting outside without going out and about. But absolutely, man. Oh God, I couldn't imagine being stuck inside. I would have given up a long time ago. So, and I agree with you, Robin. I think sidewalk cafes are probably just fine, and we're just gonna have to move forward in some way. I think for the most part, generally, I think it's possible for us to continue to progress if we all do. I'm just going to leave it at that. Anyways, you guys, I am so happy to have all you here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on a Sunday. It really makes my day. I can't even tell you. When I set these things up, I'm actually a little nervous usually, as weird as that sounds, and I'm always a little anxious. And then once I get done with them, you guys, I'm always just, I feel so good about just having spent time with you guys, my path, sitting here and talking about zero carb. It's so easy to get all trapped in our minds, and it just really helps having you guys here and having this time to bounce things off of. So I appreciate it. I'm sorry that I'm not here every week, Sarah, and I definitely will take into consideration that I could do more. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll come back. Maybe I'll come back weekly here as things, whatever. We'll see. I'm not going to make any promises. That's the only thing. I just don't want. I'm such a jerk. No commitments, huh? I'm just trying to free my schedule up right now. So Robin says being inside all breathing on each other is problematic. Totally agree. Hey, Sarah, you're going to go to the Mountain House. That's awesome. I haven't heard you talk about that place for a little while. I know you love it so much. I know it's an important place for you and your family. I'm glad to hear you guys are going to get out there. So my family too, told you my parents live at the beach. They live at what was always our vacation beach house. And I know that even though I haven't been visiting, my sister and brother live in small enclosed spaces in the city. And so, like I was just saying, they have been feeling trapped. So I know they've been going down and visiting my parents. There's a little, like a separate cabin that they can sleep in, and then they can hang out together on the deck. So they come from the city and they just sort of stay on the deck with my folks and get to visit. Both my brother and my sister and her fiance have done that. And my dad's birthday's coming up, and I'm not sure if I'll travel, but I'm sure missing them, and I'd like to see them. And I'm glad my brother and sister have been going to see them. So I agree with you guys, Sarah, and I'm glad you're going to get up to your mountain house. And I appreciate that you like to see me once a week, Sarah. That means a lot to me. Thank you. And I will. No, I do take it into consideration, actually. You guys are important to me. I mean, this channel is small. There's not many of us, and you guys have really gotten me here, through these years. Like, being able to talk about this stuff and share this with you, I feel like you guys are my supporters. And so, yeah, if you say you want me every week, it carries some weight with me, Sarah. Don't get me wrong. I definitely want to do, try and do right by you guys too. But I appreciate that you say do what you want. So I am going to just sort of slow down a little bit. I think I will do at least every other week, for sure. Like I said, I just sort of am appreciating a little bit of break in between, not feeling like I'm coming back right on the heels of last week and saying the same thing. And right now, my life has felt like Groundhog Day because really not doing much. I'm trying to, you know, keep things kind of keep the lid on things here and personally, so I don't get too anxious and, you know, feel like I have to go do something or whatever. So that's part of the every other week thing too, is just that I'm sort of like not doing much to tell you guys about. Cutting firewood, sitting in the sun by my koi pond. But I will come as I can. Sarah, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. I really do. I really appreciate all you guys. You guys have meant a lot to me. So thank you. So, hour and a half. That's probably enough for today. We'll let some of the we should cut it off so the people who want to come get caught up don't look at it like a giant chore. But listen, you guys, I can't thank you enough. Yeah, Robin says, I'm kind of dialing back how much carnivore content that I'm watching. Too much of it is getting too political. Yeah, Robin, I mean, I think I didn't say that specifically, but that's kind of part of what I was trying to say earlier, was that I don't, you know, I'm so comfortable with where I am. I know you are too, with our path, with our choices. I don't really have any questions about science, this or that, or, you know, so I don't really need all that input anymore. And what I found, and this happened a long time ago when I got off Twitter, was that it was a lot of the stresses of those interactions from those people, whether they're Dr. Baker attacking the vegans or the vegans attacking them, or Frank or Paul, you know, or just the politics of, I mean, for some reason, carnivore, there's a whole host of people who think that there's a political slant to carnivory, one side or the other. I mean, you can take it whichever direction you want. And, you know, I've never really subscribed to any of that, to be honest with you. I've never picked a side still at 50 years old. And I probably won't, just to be frank about my politics. You know, I'm a rural guy with guns who wants everyone to have access to doctors. You know, I'm somewhere, you know, that doesn't fit anyone. And I watch those things, and whether it's real politics or fake brought in politics, or whether it's just a perceived idea of what everyone who eats beef thinks like, you know, everyone who eats carnivore must think the same, and we know that's not the case. And so, yeah, I'm the same way, Robin. I when I get into the carnivore world, I in the early days, I was really focused on the nuts and bolts, you know, the meat and the eating. And now that I'm kind of through that hump now, it's like the rest of it sort of bleeds in, and I don't need that. I was watching some streamer this week who started his day. He was like interested in the financial market stuff, and so he would start his day and watch CNBC, and you know, I was kind of trying to. I've never paid any attention to that world either, much like politics. I've just stayed a kid, so I haven't paid any attention to finances or politics or anything, you know, and now I'm 50 and I'm like, I don't think I really need to pay attention to them, but they're there. Anyways, I was trying to learn about financial stuff. I don't know anything. And I started trying to watch what some of those people do. And, you know, they wake up and watch the news. And I did it for like a morning, and I was like, what an awful way to start your day. just blasted with this huge swath of negativity. And so I kind of feel the same way, Robin, about carnivore content. It's just becomes an energy black hole. So my whole thing, as you guys know, I'm just here staying positive in the moment, right here, right now, thankful that I am this healthy, that I've got this health, that I've got this mental fortitude, this positivity. It's all thanks to Zero Carb. I don't need to make it political. I don't need to find something to be angry about out there, about what someone else is doing or not doing. Like, I just need to listen to those birds sing and look at my koi and just be thankful. So, you know, I am totally there with you, Robin, and I think that's a big part when I say, you know, I'm not really watching much carnivore stuff. I think a big part of it, you know, I say I don't really need that anymore, and it's about the science and community, but a big part of it is just all that negativity that sneaks in. And, you know, I'm definitely a bit of a, I don't know what you call it. I definitely got my head in the sand a bit by choice. And I like it that way. I think the world's a great place, man. I woke up this morning, I went down to the beach, It was gorgeous. I went surfing. I saw all of these people who have just been wonderful companions throughout my whole lifelong journey. You know, people I've known since I was 16, down there hanging out in the sun. You know, just positive community. And then I come home and got my food and you guys. And I don't know. I'm feeling really good about everything. I don't need that negativity. So big energy black hole. So yeah says, hey man, I remember found you a few years ago in one of your first episodes back when there were very few people talking about carnivore on YouTube. Hope all is well. Yeah, right on. Well, thanks for coming back and checking in. Everything's awesome. Unbelievably good. Just talking about, you know, how carnivore continues to be such a positive change in my life, and how much positive change it's brought in so many aspects. Yeah, man, doing awesome. I hope you're good. Yeah. Were you carnivore then? Were you starting? Were you just interested in it? Are you a long-term carnivore? I'm always curious. You know, I've been carnivore now for 3.5 years. It's not very long in the grand scheme of things, but in our little movement, it's, you know, I'm not like a long-termer, but we're starting to be there's definitely a whole lot more new people, I guess I'll just put it that way. And it's always interesting to, you know, see and hear from people who have been on the same journey. I know, you know, I think probably a lot of people come and go. It's just a guess that people might not stay in. But yeah, one of the goals with this channel was, and it's one of the reasons why, Sarah, why I'm kind of taking a step back from weekly, because I recognize that I don't want to burn out, because I think there's value in the long story, right? Like if I started 3 years ago and I was sharing then, and if I'm still here in 10 years, I think there's going to be a lot of value there. So I'm going to keep trying to update my story on a regular basis, and you know, I still think that I still get people, actually even recently, who find my channel and go back to my old videos and come into my new ones and go, man, you look incredible compared to your first video. And I think there's a ton of value just in that. You know, I don't have like a before and after picture, but you can go back in those videos and you can really see how a zero carb lifestyle might progress, at least how it's progressed for me. And a big part of that's what I was just talking about going from, even in the early videos, you know, I'm talking about these strict regimens, and you know, I've got kind of strict controls, and then now where I'm like, yeah, now I eat whatever. I mean, I don't eat whatever. I just eat ground beef, but I eat as much as I want when I want. You know, I don't worry about controlling any of it. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff. So yeah, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming back. So was carnivore for a little more than a year, says yeah. And since then, you found a lot of value in carbs, fruit, and dairy. But carnivore was a great elimination and turning point for me. Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Right on. You know, so I'm always actually really encouraged when I hear stories like yours, because I think, especially, and I'm not assuming that you are any age, but I have friends who are 20, you know, something, and they're curious about what I'm doing. And, you know, I feel like there's no way when I was 20 I would have done this. I wouldn't have committed to this for life. I mean, maybe I would have if it had felt like this, if the difference between non-carnivore and carnivore felt so dramatic. But I kind of don't believe that they would have, especially when I was 20. I don't think I was as sick. Anyways, when I'm talking to younger folks, I'm always like, I really wish you'd try it just as an elimination diet, and then come back, bring some other stuff back in, and see what works for you. And so I do have one friend who does mostly carnivore and eats some sweet potatoes and stuff like that. And yeah, your story is great. You know, I love to hear that someone's tried it, and that they've, you know, because I have felt like whether you stick with it or not, whether you find out that it's for you or not, you're going to learn so much about your body, about what works for you, and about, you know, your beliefs are going to change. Like, you'll no longer make your food choices. The information you use to make your food choices will be totally, you know, you'll be totally coming from a new place. So when you continue down your path in life, I think you'll just be much better equipped to say, oh yeah, I don't want to eat that, or I do want to eat that, or maybe I'll try this, or whatever. So I love that. Yeah, that's great. Very, very cool to hear that you're able to incorporate some fruit and dairy, and that you found value in those things. That's awesome. Really, really, really glad and love to hear from people who have been on both sides, because I think that that's kind of the biggest hole in our dialogue and our progress, is that most of the people we have these conversations with, if they're not carnivores, they really can't. It's hard to have that conversation, because it's like talking about somewhere you've never been, and they're just so different. So that's great. Yeah, really, really cool. Really good to hear. So yeah. So on that note, you guys, anything else? We got more questions or stuff? I think I'm gonna wind it down. And Sarah's going to go start her big Sunday family dinner. That sounds awesome, Sarah. You have a great week, too. Great couple weeks. And Robin says, went carnivore 1/1/13 and did it for 18 months. Then moved to Hawaii and fell face first into a bunch of tropical fruit. Wow. Robin, really interesting. That's crazy. Huh. Not crazy like you're crazy. Just I'm surprised. Not surprised necessarily that you went face first into tropical fruit, because I would have done the same thing. But no, just surprised that you've been back and forth and so long ago. That's really interesting. It must have been interesting to go from 18 months of carnivory to Hawaii and tropical fruit. That would be really hard. So I've actually thought about that a lot. Hawaii's somewhere really special to me. I spent a lot of my time there as a younger man. When I was a snowboard industry rep, I would have summers off. So I would live often in Kauai, on Kauai and Maui for 4 months of the year. I didn't think I did that for like 4 or 5 years. And I've often thought about going back there. And I've often thought that I probably couldn't do it as a carnivore, unless I was, financially totally set. Just couldn't afford it, because beef is so expensive over there, and seafood you could eat, but there's not much fat. So, you could do it, but it'd be tough. And then there's fruit everywhere, and it's free, and it's healthy, supposedly. And so when I was over there as a young man, I would basically live on papayas and guavas and all that stuff. So I can totally see it. I can totally see going from carnivory to like a fruit-based thing. It'd be really interesting to see how your body responded. I'm sure you were quite attuned to the changes. I'd love to hear your take on that sometime. So as I told you guys, I don't really feel like I have the flexibility to go back and forth and try other paradigms out these days. Maybe my perception of that will change over time, but currently I feel like carnivore kind of is the only way I can eat. But it doesn't bother me. But that is what it is. But yeah, that would be tough. And it'd be interesting, Robin. Interesting to that must have been an interesting path. I wonder how long you were eating. When did you come back to carnivore? So 18 months. That would have been halfway through 2014. You started eating fruit. And a relapse of the breast cancer had been gone for a decade. Oh, wow. During the fruit episode. Oh, wow. Interesting. Huh. Robin, do you correlate those things? Do you correlate the breast cancer in your diet? Can I ask you that? It's okay if you don't want to answer. I just, I don't know how to feel about I don't know how to feel about, like, I have friends who are sick in various ways, and I'm always like thinking that maybe carnivore could help them, but I don't want to just, say whatever. But I just wonder what your take is on that. So, oh, hell yeah. Oh, interesting. I think so, but I wouldn't want to assume, especially with you as a cancer survivor. You're gonna have, definitely your own perspective there for sure. So interesting. It correlates. period. Firm sentence there, Robin. I like it. That's great. That's really helpful for me. Thank you very much. I have my own thoughts on that, and we've all heard about what feeds tumors and blah 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 blah. But yeah, like I said, I've never really known, not having any personal experience. It's such a sensitive thing, right? But yeah, I feel like all of our modern diseases are diet based for the most part. Diet and environment. I mean, I definitely think that that car exhaust is a big problem. I'm not a huge whatever fake harmful things, but definitely live near roadways, you get a lot of that stuff in you. But I definitely think for the most part, most of our environmental input that is making everyone sick, I think, is almost all diet, and I will go all the way to cancer with that one, and think that at least in my belief that definitely diet plays some role. So that's cool to hear, Robin. Thanks for that. Came back to SD in 2017 and went back to carnivore. So you were non-carnivore there for 5 years almost. Wow. Interesting. So much in there. So much in there. Yeah. Fruit is so crazy, isn't it? It's so easy to look at it as something that's probably great for us. But yeah, I'm kind of leaning your way there, Robin. Definitely drives a lot of processes that don't happen otherwise if we don't have the carbohydrates in us, especially not the fructose. 3 years off carnivore. 3 years off carnivore. So carnivore went 13, and then 3 years off. Yeah, that's a pretty long stretch. Did you consider carnivore in Hawaii? It probably wasn't even something that you would really even consider, I would imagine. I've lived there. I know that beef is unbelievably expensive. And fruit, I'm sure you were exploring another paradigm. It sounds like, you must have felt like the fruit and that lifestyle was a different path to health, which I totally understand. I totally get that it's easy to feel like that would be an important part of your diet. Come to find out, at least in my belief, it's not. I don't think it really brings anything of value to our diet. Once you get to where we are, but it's easy to see, to fall into that trap. So. Great beef on Molokai, locally grown, but I had fruit trees in my yard everywhere. Yeah, no, I know there's cows there. I guess maybe you didn't. You might not have had a problem buying them. When I lived there, I was always sort of, as my whole life just kind of wasn't really always in a, I wasn't able to buy all the food I would have liked to. And especially in Hawaii, beef is, if I remember, man, I think ground beef when I was there was like $7 a pound or something. It was expensive. So anyways, I'm so glad, Robin, that you're back in San Diego. Well, I'd probably love to come visit you in Hawaii too, but I'm glad you're back to carnivore, and I'm really glad that you're back on the mend, because yeah, that's interesting though. I'm really, really interested to hear your take on food. It gives me pause, all of my friends who are sick, of course they eat, what they think is healthy, and most of that is fruits and vegetables and vegetarian stuff. So, and yeah, I've got some friends with breast cancer at pretty young ages, 40, 38. And yeah, they're lifelong vegetarians. I can't blame that on that, but it is interesting to hear your take on it. So, but you also got lax about stuff like cocktails and shave ice. Yeah. And I think carbs do that. Once you start eating carbs, it's just a slippery slope. It's just so much easier to fall back into those things, which, don't really go anywhere good for the most part. I know for me, cocktails, so easy to fall into when I'm doing carbs. And and really just take me backwards really fast in my overall goals. So, interesting though. Good stuff, you guys. So, well, all right, you guys. Another 10 minutes. We just covered. I think it's good. So I think maybe that's enough for today. Is it? Is that enough? Let's check out, huh? Got to get outside, huh? It's beautiful here. We've had kind of a rainy week actually, so I'm actually excited that we're getting some sun. And I think the surf is probably still cranking, so I might go check the surf. my real motive comes out. So you guys, I cannot thank you enough for being here with me week in and week out, and for all your support. It just means so much to me. So thank you, and for being just along for this ride. So I'll come back in a couple weeks at most, and we'll do it again. In the meantime, you guys, June gloom. Yep, it just cleared here. We got the same thing, Robin. West Coast June gloom. We're just blowing it out, and here comes summer, right? So happy holiday weekend for all you guys in the States. Happy 4th of July. I hope you have a really, really good celebratory weekend. There's still a lot to celebrate. I'm still really, really proud to be living where I live, and I'm definitely going to celebrate just being here and being healthy and being happy and being positive. So you guys have a great week. If you're not in the States, hope you have a great non-holiday weekend. And everyone just stay positive. Keep doing what you're doing, and let's get back together again in a couple weeks. We'll do it again. In the meantime, you guys, I hope you guys do have a great week, great couple weeks, and stay the course. Make some progress. I'll do the same. Thank you guys. Thanks for being here. I really, really, really appreciate each and every one of you. All right, you guys. That's enough. That's my sign off. I'll see you guys real soon. Have an awesome Sunday. Bye.